What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, oh man, it is so good to be talking about a Falcon
Oh man,
win on this show again.
oh
Jesus.
yeah, it has been far too long to be, you know, for that to be something that we have gotten to talk about. Because
Yes.
like on the short side of it, like this is what I like. Not just the win, but the way they looked, and we'll get into all this. But this is what I was expecting last week. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? I am to come out, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on last week, obviously, but to come out the way they did last week really had me just like groaning for like, oh great, here we go again, kind of deal.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously we're talking about a win on the road. The Falcons finally get a in the win column for 2024, and they did it in a dramatic fashion in a hostile environment, which going on the road and winning is never easy in the NFL, and it is definitely not easy up in Philadelphia. So, I guess without much further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. And Fred's going to go ahead and kick us off. He says, "You like that? Of course, we like
Absolutely.
that." And obviously that has like been Cousins' like catchphrase or whatever. But you know, yeah, he had the game that we were expecting him to have in a sense.
So he had the game that we expected him to have in the final quarter and a half.
Okay, but the reason why I say expecting him to have like this is how I expected last week to look. The first half still looking, a little, shaky,
Discombobulated.
right? But then as the game went on, you started to see his confidence build, and not only his confidence build, you started to see the offense in general, their confidence start to build. So before we dive much into like the deep aspects of the game, let's go ahead and do everybody's favorite segment that Willie Doc is kicking us off with on the ballers and fallers. So we appreciate that, Willie.
Thank you, Willie. Appreciate it much.
He says baller coup. That's a good one because I had a lot of like going back and forth in my own mind of like who to even give the baller to. He
Mhm.
says 3 field goals and a long PAT. Yes, very much so. That's a good get right there. Faller, Ebiketie. Not a great pass rush as a whole. Yeah, Ebiketie is starting to look more and more like just a guy. Um,
Yeah.
and it is what it is, right? Not everybody's going to be a home run threat. Hopefully, he can start to turn the corner, but right now he's definitely looking like um, just a rotational player. Honorable mention from Willie Doc is Algier. Yes, you had a. We're really going to talk about the run game today, but Algier had a really good showing. Side eye glance, Morris fourth down play call in the fourth quarter. Is that the Bijan stuff?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, look. You could maybe say, hindsight is what it is. We've been running it down their throats all game long,
Hmm.
all game long. You might say, okay, well, maybe put in Algier. Well, you got to remember, I don't know how I can't remember if he was able to get back into the game after this or not, but at one point he limped off. Like
Yeah,
he was
Algier.
feeling
Yep.
something. He was feeling something in his foot. It just wasn't feeling good. So,
Yeah, we're
uh,
gonna see how that goes because that would be a big deal. Chris says baller Bijan Robinson for that chip block on Nolan Smith.
whew,
He sent Nolan Smith into the like parallel dimension with that chip block. I enjoyed that immensely. And then he says his follower was Ray McLeod for his pregame outfit. Now the backstory there, obviously he was wearing an Eagles Randall Cunningham jersey, but apparently
yep,
that was his dad's jersey.
yep.
Like so. I guess, somewhat give a
Hey,
little.
you're in Philly.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
know,
That's like I
yeah,
can somewhat give. It's not like he's been an Atlanta Falcon forever, so I can give him a little bit there. Willie Doc with another $5, which we appreciate.
appreciate it,
Uh,
Willie.
he says, "Shout out to cousins Zach Robinson and Jimmy Lake. They are adjusting and growing now. If we can just get Pitts going, again, we'll get into that as well because I have some thoughts there.
Yeah.
All right, so for the shows, ballers and fallers. Let me get me a sip of my drink here. What do you got for a baller, Jonathan?
So we talked about this at like 7 o'clock this morning.
Right, which I think I've
Uh,
changed it 3 times since we've talked. So,
so for me, I could go there's any number of ways I could go. We could go Mooney because I think that's who we talked about this
oh,
morning. We could
go. Yep.
go Kirk Cousins. We
Mm-hmm.
could go with Algier. We could go with Bijan Robinson. There's a lot of different places. I'm actually going to go with Chris Lindstrom.
Okay.
Because after watching some clips today and seeing some analysis on this today, like he dominated the hell out of Jalen Carter for most of that game.
Right.
Like Jalen Carter was not a factor until like kind of late in the game. He notched a couple of wins late,
Mm-hmm.
but like for much of that game, you didn't hear anything about Jalen Carter. You didn't really hear a lot about Jordan Davis.
Yeah, Davis did that bat right at the beginning of the game. That was about
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah. So, but
somebody at some point in time is going to have to do like a case study on that Georgia defense and their transition to the pros because it hasn't been great. like,
well,
um,
I mean, now you want to talk like Kamari Lassiter, I think is his name,
mm-hmm.
the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback that is either first year or second year guy, I can't remember, in the league. That dude had an amazing interception on
Oh
Sunday.
yeah, yeah. I'm just talking about like
Uh,
that big defense with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and N'Kobe Dean and those guys
yeah,
that
Kobe,
everybody was.
that dude is tiny.
Yeah, for the NFL, he's a little dude.
For an NFL linebacker, he is
Yeah,
tiny.
right.
And like on the Mooney play, um, the touchdown to Mooney on that play, they did the cover zero blitz,
Hmm.
and Dean blitzed up there. Bijan stepped up to take the blitz, and he like slowed down. And so he didn't run full force into Bijan. He just kind of stuttered for a
Yeah,
second right before hitting him, so kind of blunted his own blitz.
right.
But yeah, he's fast,
Well,
but
a quick correction: Lassiter is on the Texans as a rookie this year. I think
let's,
the Bengals guy you're thinking of is Cameron Taylor Britt, I believe.
yep,
Who-
never mind. You're
Yep.
right. You're right. But Lassiter has also looked good
Right.
with the Texans as well.
All
So,
right. So on to the faller that actually made it to the graphic because we did
no,
talk about
Balla.
baller. Excuse me, baller that actually made it to the graphic. So the baller that made it to the graphic is Bijan Robinson. And the reason, like, the more I thought about it, the more I like really like looked at it, and it wasn't just for the running. It was the running, the catching, the pass protection. Like that one play, the Mooney touchdown. If Bijan doesn't meet N'Kobe Dean in the hole, um, like if he whiffs on that block, you don't get that throw.
Yep.
And that touchdown, because like the touchdown is what initially had me going, okay, let's do Darnell Mooney, but because that touchdown seemed to really ignite the offense, in a way like the passing offense. Um, but the more I thought about it, like I said, if it wasn't for Bijan stepping up and making that block, you probably don't get that pass.
No.
And so, uh, that's my I guess that ended up being like my baller. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, it started out as Mooney because Mooney was frustrated at the first part of the game, and you could see that he was getting frustrated. But once he got that touchdown, it's like it ignited him, it ignited the passing game, and then on that final drive, he had two real big catches.
Oh yeah.
So all right, now moving on to the faller. So who do you have for your faller? This one was kind of tough for me
Yeah.
because nobody like really made like just absolute like fools of themselves, so to speak.
I mean, Richie Grant played really well.
Yeah, Richie Grant played good.
There were a lot of guys played really good on the defense. They just, they couldn't get the pass rush going like we wanted it to get going. But
Yeah, I mean,
the back end was super solid. Like
right.
he, Jalen Hurts had to hold on to that ball for a long time and had to do a lot of checkdowns.
Mhm.
The one pass the entire game that he threw that was over 20 yards was the interception at the end of the game. He
Right.
didn't throw anything else over 20 yards the rest of the game.
No.
If I had to go with a faller, it's probably I think I told you this morning. It's actually, and I still think it's probably closer to this. Troy Anderson, just for the fact that like he just kept. Yep, there you go.
Yep, both of them, number 44.
Exactly. Just he was overrunning holes, missing missing tackles. He cleaned it up somewhat, and like he was real bad about it in the first half. Second half, he kind of cleaned it up some more. Didn't quite have as many breakout runs from Jalen in the second half as we had in the first half.
Right.
But it was just we don't he's a guy that doesn't trigger. He doesn't shoot that gap like we want him to as often as we need.
Right. And there's part of me like,
I
that was, Troy Willie said like, Troy is my second choice. Remember, he's coming off injury.
know.
He's coming off injury, and also like, he hasn't played linebacker very well. I still got or very long, as far as like a inside linebacker. I still got a lot of hope for Troy, but I'm with you. It was Troy Anderson.
Yeah.
Not only did he get like stiff armed into oblivion by Saquon on a big run, he was constantly like over. It's almost like he's got too much athleticism. In a sense, not that he's too fast or anything like that, but um, like his athleticism almost runs him out of the play.
He's not. He's not. It's almost like he's not in control of it because he gets going and he can he can get to where he needs to be, and then he just kind of overshoots it a
Right.
little bit.
But like I said, I still got hope for him that he puts it together. Excuse me 1 second.
I mean, and I think in the passing game, I think he's progressed a lot more in the passing game than what we saw from him last year and then the year before. Obviously, I think he's gotten a lot better. He doesn't quite seem so like lost out there when it comes
Right.
to like man coverage or zone coverage. He's gotten better at that aspect of it.
And then like on that, on that play that ends up being the interception, like it was him and Ellis that really brought the pressure.
Yeah.
Ellis was the one that looped around, but Troy Anderson was bearing down the, really pushing the middle of the pocket. So, those two combined, uh, they brought that pressure on the end. But I distinctly remember once or twice in the early part of the game when Saquon was ripping off, 9 yards of carry. I get it. I understand it's Saquon Barkley. It's Quadzilla. It's whatever you want to call it.
That's
But
a
I was
really
like,
good offensive line too. Like
right.
really,
I was like, Troy, you better put some weights in your pocket or something. Cause like he was just getting moved like way too easy. And just disappointing. Now, a close second for me was Ray McLeod because of that, the
punch.
personal foul. Yeah. As Chris saying, we got to clean up the personal fouls. Can't be punching people front of the refs, and Drake needs to leave the chopper in the trunk.
Yeah.
Um, but that punch, like I get it. CJ
I'm
Gardner,
surprised he was not ejected. Like,
right?
honest to God, like I was like, oh great, he's ejected.
Like I totally get it that CJ Gardner Johnson knocked his mouthpiece out, but it's well known that the one who reacts is the one who gets flagged, because that's the one that the refs generally always see. So for him not to be able to hold his composure after really like turning into like the safety valve for Kirk Cousins these past two games. Um, the role that you would hope that Kyle Pitts was going to take, Ray McLeod has taken, because he's fearless across the middle, and he's able to separate. He's shifty enough and fast enough, and able to separate. And Kirk has already started to trust him quite a bit. Um, but we got to clean. You got to clean that stuff up. Got to clean the over aggressiveness nature of it.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
now with Nate Landman going on IR,
Mm-hmm.
which you felt that did against against Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying that Landman may not have fared much better, but Landman's more in that old school mold of you know I'm going to hit you in the mouth as a linebacker.
Yep.
More of that run stuff or that thumper. They brought in some linebackers to try out before they announced Landman going on. So Dre asked us, "Do y'all think we should bring back Rashawn Evans?" Since my boy, my dog, my man, uh, Nate
The beast, the dog, the man, the monster.
I love Dre Murphy. Um, well, they signed Josh Wood to the practice squad,
Yeah.
so they're probably going to try to roll with just
Did we see Bertrand at all, like out
Bert.
there?
I want to say Bertram was in. I can get some stats pulled up if you want to give
Yeah.
me just a
So
few seconds.
yeah, you know, when
Oh,
we have Landman in there in obvious running downs, he's our rush our run defense is much better. Like
yeah,
it is. I mean, it wasn't horrible in this game. I mean, if you take out Jalen Hurts' rushing, which I mean, you can say, well, you can't do that, but that's a different kind of rush defense, right? If we're just talking straight running backs, if we take that out, I think we held them to just over 100 yards rushing. Uh,
right,
it wasn't much more than 100. Um, and Saquon we held to 97
right.
or 94 or something like that. It was roughly equal to what Robinson got. He didn't. I mean, considering what he looked like after that first drive, I thought he was going to go for like 175,
Dude, he
200.
was
I mean,
my
he
God,
was
he was ripping
dashing
off
us up.
9 yards a carry for like the first quarter. It
Yeah,
was it was nuts. I was like, I'm sitting there going, we got to do something about it, because you got to force Jalen to throw the ball. Because if you force him to throw the ball, he is prone to make some bad decisions every now and again. Uh, so I was glad to see that they were able to bottle him up, especially in the second half and the third quarter. Now he was able to get going again a little bit in the fourth quarter, but
yeah.
it didn't necessarily
I
hurt us
think,
too
I
bad.
think a lot of that came down to in the fourth quarter up until the final drive. We kind of like their defense was getting the best of us, and then they were just they were just going on long drives. Our defense was out there a ton in that
Hmm.
fourth quarter. So,
All right, we were looking for Bertrand, right?
yep, JD Bertrand.
He only has special team snaps.
Okay,
He
so,
didn't
so
take any snaps on
it
the.
was all Ellison Landman.
It was all Ellison
Oh yeah,
Landman.
Ellison Anderson. Sorry.
Yeah, Ellis and Anderson, and then like you could count Carter as being a linebacker. Um,
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's outside, but yeah,
yeah,
I
but
guess
as far as just your traditional linebackers, it was all Ellis and it was all Anderson. So they had to do something. They were going to have to sign somebody because if one of those guys goes down,
You
um,
are real bad.
you're boned. Um, Fred Butts with another $2, which we appreciate greatly. Fred,
Thank you, Mr. Butts.
he says Kyle Pitt's blocking was outstanding and went unnoticed. I saw people bringing it up on the timeline, so it didn't go unnoticed on my end, so to speak. But
Him and Drake
um,
were like
yes,
stonewalling fools.
and that was part of one of the part of what I want to talk about, right? Is they finally found their identity, so to speak, and it's the run game. It still is, the run game. This offensive line is better when they're going forward than
Yes.
they are when they have to sit there and pass block. Like, especially if you notice, like on those passing plays, on a good bit of those passing plays, uh, the O line was still like treating it like a run, like their zone runs. Everybody was taking a step one way, taking a step another. Then you were play action passing, so you dress it like a run, play action pass, uh, and that was working out real well. Like you got to see Kirk almost like knock off the rest of the rust in real time.
Yep. I
Um,
think. I think not to cut you off, but
yeah, go ahead.
the I felt like the turning point for him. We didn't do a whole lot again until the very last drive, but I honestly think if things go the way I think they might the rest of the season, then that the point you could kind of point to where like okay that's where he got back on track. That was the Mooney touchdown
Hmm.
because he had to he had to trust that his guy was going to be there, right? Uh, so much of what we saw in the first game, and a lot of what we saw early in this game was we saw a lot of double clutching. Like a lot, we saw how many times we see a pump fake
Yep.
or something like that, and he, it was like he wasn't trusting what he was seeing. Uh, but then you get the cover zero. He beats him over the top with Mooney, goes for a touchdown. The very next play is the 2-point conversion, and it was incomplete. It was a failed conversion, but it's a very similar throw that he basically spit on earlier in the game when we were in the red zone and we had Drake do a kind of like out and in, right? He kind of
Hmm.
went out in and he was between two defenders. And, a lot of people were talking about like, well, if Penix was out there, he would have made that throw. He would have zipped it in there. And that it was a throw that, yeah, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks that will make that throw because they can, you know, get up on it and throw it through that, thread that needle. But he spit on it earlier in the game. In that
Hmm.
2-point conversion, it failed, but he still threw the pass and gave his guy a shot.
Right.
And I think you look at those two plays, and then you look at the last drive where like all of a sudden all the timing seemed to click, and especially the touchdown to Drake London. That was a perfectly timed pass, perfectly timed route. Everything just worked perfectly like it was supposed
Right.
to, and it looked much like what we were hoping it was going to look like from the jump. And I think that's what we saw in that second half of that game was him finding his footing, him finding his confidence mentally. Uh, that hey, this is I can still do this. I can still
Hmm.
this is how I go.
Well, like King's making an interesting point. Does anybody notice the way these games are lined up? Each team is getting us ready for the next. All mobile QBs, one more mobile than the next, and harder D lines. It's like we said, these first like 4 or 5 games was going to be a gauntlet. yes, we have like on paper one of the easiest schedules. But that's I don't ever really get lulled into caring about that. Because as you saw this weekend, not just with us going on the road and winning in Philly, but you had the Raiders beating Baltimore at home. You had Green Bay with Malik Willis, who hadn't even been there a week, beating the Colts. So this was a weird week. Then you had, Denver going two and or not Denver, but the Steelers going 2-0 and still looking like ugly doing it. The Bengals almost beating the Chiefs, right? So there was
I had some folks on my timeline that were like, "See what Justin Fields, this and that, and the other, blah 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 blah." Yeah, talking about they got the franchise quarterback for a whatever, and I'm like, they've run like 20 series this season so far, and they've got one touchdown.
right.
One.
Like I'm not even like, hey, look, sign them up if you want them. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and give them a contract. Um but with that being said, the first game you go up against the Steelers, who have a ridiculous defense, and
Yep.
they showed yet again that they had a ridiculous defense that absolutely just wrecked the game. Um, the Then you get to the Eagles, which I was like, man, they've got a pretty good defensive line, but they, to me, in my opinion, had a much better offense. And for the folks who were going to say, oh, well, they were missing AJ Brown. Yeah, I hear you. They were missing AJ Brown, but you had Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, you had, Jahan Dotson and Devontae
Devontae,
Smith
yeah.
you had Dallas Goddard. So it's not like
And that
you
offensive line is
yeah,
real good.
yeah, real
Man,
good.
like I think what was it? They said that like the offensive line for the Eagles averaged at like 330,
That was
340 pounds.
that's probably the biggest offensive line in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
those guys are huge. I mean,
Becky Becton is like
Makai
or
Becton.
Mackay Becton. He's like 360 something pounds on his own.
Right. And they put him at guard.
Yeah.
So, you know, but the thing is, like in this game, you were able to your coverage was good enough to where you kept Devontae Smith, who should have been getting fed the ball, um, to 4 targets. Now he had 3 receptions, but you only gave up 30 yards and a touchdown to him.
Yeah.
So, like, what hurts you was, Hurts and Barkley, and you kind of felt like Barkley was going to get his. Now Hurts, because of our coverage, was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do it myself. And for the first time in a while, Hurts actually was using his legs because he hurt his knee at some point in time last year, and for the most part, wasn't moving around like that.
Yeah.
So, but this is a comment from earlier. Millie Mills says he lives up there in Philly, and he says, "Man, I tell you," he said, "this city is respecting the heck out of Bijan today. All I can do is laugh and wave my flag." Yeah, because what it came down to was like this really came down to a battle of the backs. It came down to you know the combined effort of Bijan and Tyler against the effort of Saquon Barkley. And to date, Barkley has still yet to win in Philly, which I thought was interesting. I thought that was kind of funny.
Well,
Um,
so earlier today, I was listening to the Locked On Eagles podcast.
okay, how'd that go?
Whew, so much anger, and I kind of, I'm not gonna say take offense. That's maybe a little too strong, but like, they basically were like, uh, you know, with all due respect to the Falcons, no, the Eagles,
Oh,
gave
it was
the game
the
away, this
yeah, okay.
and what have you. And I'll say this: like, was that? Did they give us? Did they gift us an opportunity? They gifted us an opportunity.
Sure.
I'm not gonna say like they made the decision. Look, it was the right call to do the Saquon Barkley pass. The pass was on point. It was exactly where it needed to be. It wasn't a fingertip just off his fingertips thing. No, it was literally in his hands and he just missed it. And he's been known for that over best whatever 2 3 years or whatever as the running back with the most amount of drops. So it's a possibility. And anytime you throw the football, that's always a possibility. But you feel like you run that play 100 times, he's going to catch it probably 95 or more times.
Well, you had the same instance where we were trying to convert. It was a third down, and same side of the field, like it was a throw to the right to Bijan,
Yeah.
who right off his fingertips as well. Like he catches that, and like he was going to convert that to
Yeah.
to a first down, and that drive would have kept going. Instead, you ended up having to punt.
Right.
So there were
So they give us that opportunity. We still had to go and do, take advantage of it. And we did. I mean,
mhm.
so you can say whatever you want to say. Yeah, they could have salted it away. They could have. That was the game. If he catches it, he was going to get a first down, and that would have been the game. But at the end of the day, your defense was still out there, had a chance to stop us. It wasn't like all we had to do was get into field goal range. We had to go all the way down the field and get a touchdown.
And score a touchdown. Right. It wasn't just a march to get into field goal. Like you had to have six, and we had no timeouts.
Yeah.
Like it had to be a perfect drive, and it was a perfect drive.
Yep.
Like some Dre's asking, speaking of the Algier, which took me a second with the emojis. I was like, what is he talking about here? Because on my screen, when I'm looking at it, it's about that big. So I was like, anyway. So I'm assuming that's an alligator. He says, has anybody heard whether he's doing all right or not? We haven't gotten any kind of like injury updates yet. Raheem
No.
said that everybody seemed like they mostly came out healthy. He said that in his like presser today, but he said he would know more as the week went on. So it
It's one of
like
those. It's one of those situations where we don't know now, and then all of a sudden, like 2 days from now, we're in the clear, and then also we hear, oh, so so was limited or held out of
right,
practice, whatever.
exactly. That's what we have to keep on. Now Alberto says the defense needs some props too. They kept us in the game. Yes, by all means. Like the defense these past two games, has been the stabilizing force. Obviously they gave up. Let's see, rushing. They gave up 51 yards. What? That ain't right. What is this? This is nonsense. What am I looking at here? It says 51 yards. It says Barkley rushed for 37 yards. That's a damn lie. Uh, I know he like Barkley rushed for almost 94 by himself. So I guess NFL got their crap wrong. Let me pull up a different stats block
Yeah, I'm about to do
because
the same thing here.
that was cockamamie BS right there is what that was. This makes for great radio here.
It
Or
does.
let's see.
I want to say it was like
All right, here
18 carries, and like 95 yards or 94
player
yards.
stats for the Eagles. Yeah, okay. So rushing, Saquon Barkley rushed for 95 yards. Jalen Hurts rushed for 85 yards.
Yeah,
So
22 carries, 95 yards, a
right.
sub 5 average.
So, but yeah, you could say, okay, well, you gave up, you know, almost 200 yards on the ground. Total yards. Let's see here. It'll tell me. We
Devontae Smith,
actually,
by the way, Devontae Smith had 7 receptions for 76 yards.
yeah, right. Their stat block is weird. I don't know if this was that's the first half. That's why. That's what they had in the first half. Um, Total yards, we gave up 186 yards rushing, and we gave up 179 yards passing. But do you realize that we actually outgained them by 20 yards?
Yeah,
We had a total of 385 yards. They had 365.
yep.
So yes, our defense uh, does deserve some props for holding up early on in the season, it is very much like Nick says, a defense bends but doesn't break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it definitely seems. I It was really interesting that fourth down that they went for early in the game that the Eagles went for. I
Yep.
even said then I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you going for it here?" It's really early in the game,
It's Nick
you know.
Sirianni.
Right, it's Nick Sirianni, and so if Eagle fans want to be mad at anybody, they need to be mad at Nick Sirianni, because
Oh, they are.
oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah, oh I know they are.
that Locked On Eagles podcast. Oh my God,
Was he lighting them
they
up?
were roasting. They were like, "I'm done. I'm done." They were not happy with Nick Sirianni at all.
And I'll tell you this, like I have not been like super impressed with Kellen Moore. Like he started with Dallas as their OC, and then he went to the Chargers, and he was supposed to like you know unlock Justin Herbert, and that didn't happen.
Yep.
And everybody gets washed out there, they get fired, and uh, he lands in Philly. And through 2 games, I haven't been like all that super impressed with Kellen Moore as a play caller or as a decision maker.
Yeah.
Third down,
No, no. I'll say this: like that last pass uh, to that was intercepted to end the game. Like Jalen Hurts was locked in on Devontae Smith. He was not. He didn't look anywhere else. He was going to his guy, which hey, I understand. Play the game. You need to play. You go into your guy. But if all you needed was a field goal, they had a guy McCovey.
yeah,
Uh,
who had been like doing some business,
and
all
he was open over the middle. It was definitely a pass you could have made over the middle for that probably would have got you, if not into, it would have been very close to into field goal range from there.
hmm
So you know,
um I will say this, like you talk about like locked on to his guy. The one thing that I was impressed with on that winning drive, the like the three our big three was who Kurt used to move the ball down the field.
yep,
Like I know everybody was up here earlier, people talking about like don't want, Pitts on the team no more or anything like that. Let's revisit this at the end of the year because I'm not 100% out on Pitts yet. But if any of y'all listen to the Manning cast, the little clip with Matt Ryan, he was talking about what you need in a drive like this. Like the first thing that you have to get, step one, is like a positive play, and that
mm-hmm.
positive play was like you got a first down instantly, and by throwing it to Pitts.
Oh yeah,
So, and then in that drive, you hit Pitts, you hit uh, Mooney twice, you hit Drake once. You tried for Ray McLeod across the middle, which that should have been pass interference,
should have been.
but wasn't. And then on the ensuing touchdown, obviously it goes to Drake, who put a really nice move on Darius Slay. Like I don't not sure like what they did formationally that had Darius Slay just locked onto the backfield. I guess he just they lined up some way that made him feel like it was going to be a run. Um, because like he didn't really even when Drake gave him that double move type, not double move, but you know what I'm saying. Like
Gave him
he
that juke.
yeah he went in and then went back out right. Like Slay's feet was cemented in the ground for like a good tick, or a good
Yeah.
beat before he went. I was just like, that was amazing to me. It was great. It was great play call. It was a timely play design.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And after the game, Drake went. Him and Slay were shaking hands and dapping each other up and all this other stuff. And uh, you heard him say like, good route, nice route. Like
right.
he said. I couldn't make out what he said before that, but it was basically like I was trying to this and that and the other. But good route, great route. Whatever. Uh, I think he was looking at Cousins. He was trying to get an idea or he maybe saw something with the formation that he thought, like in his mind, he was like, I think they're going to do this. And
Hmm.
what he was trying to do, and I get it, like you're trying to make a play. What he was trying to do was, you know, if they get pressure on him, he's going to have to get rid of it quickly. And he maybe thought that was what was going to happen. And when it didn't happen, he had the time to wait for Drake to do his move. So he was hoping to jump something. That's
Yeah.
what he was hoping to
I'm
do.
about to say like Slay, Millie Miller saying Slay was looking to jump a post route, but no, got hit with a flag.
Yep.
But I'll say this: there's still some like my biggest takeaway really was procedurally we looked a lot better.
Yes.
There was there was no like self inflicted weird like procedural penalties, not
Did we
penalties.
even have one? Did we even have one false start?
I don't think so. And I mean, we only had 3 penalties all night, and one of them was Ray McLeod punching somebody in the face. Um, you know what I'm saying? So like, uh, then you had the other big thing was the turnover margin. Now you almost had a pick that to Drake on the sideline. That little outbreaking route early on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But Drake did a good job of playing defense there and knocking the ball away. But this is like was before Kirk really got in his groove. And then Bijan lost the ball, like bad exchange, but was able to get back on it. Um, so those were 2 potential disasters that could have spiraled out of control again, like last week.
Yeah.
That thankfully enough went our way. Um, so we didn't lose, like we won well on the turnover. But the thing is, like, I do like the idea that we were able to pull this win off, with being like negative 10 minutes in the time of possession. Like the Eagles held the ball much longer than we did. They had it 35 minutes, we had it 24.
Yep.
But that means, something that we haven't had the past few years with Arthur Smith being here is that we can actually move the ball in chunks.
Yeah.
That last drive alone, you had to move it in chunks. And so, like the touchdown to Mooney was a 40-yard touchdown. When's the last time we had a 40-yard touchdown, or something that was half the
Feels
field?
feels like forever. It honestly does.
It really
And
does.
I'll say this: yeah, that early in the game when he throws that out or comeback or whatever it was to Drake, and it's almost picked. I was like, oh man, like he's just not getting enough. Either he was either one of two things. Well, there was definitely for sure it was ball placement. If he'd have gone more outside with the ball or been able to get outside with the ball to the outside shoulder, then that's maybe a catch.
Right.
Um, Probably like at best a knock, a deflection by the cornerback, but you might have gotten a catch out of that. But it was ball placement, but also it just didn't have quite the zip. What I will say is you go back, you go to the end of the game, and that first pass in that last drive to Pitts, that was a fastball.
Yeah, that was a bullet.
That was a bullet pass. It was only 10 yards, and I get it. And it was in the middle of the field. It wasn't to the sideline. But I'm telling you right now, like that pass had more zip on it than I'd seen, anything else the rest of the game.
And that's the thing, is that like what you got to see was him still, or him, either you can call it shaking off rust, getting comfortable again, however you want to spin it. That last drive, you really saw, okay, he still does have the ability that we thought he had. Um, because it didn't look forced. It didn't look like it was labored for him to throw it the way he did. Which I was happy to see. Let's see. Oh, Says Raymond says, "What's happening, guys? What's going on, Ray?"
What's
He
going on,
says,
man?
"Great win last night, wasn't it? Very much so was." He says,
Hmm.
"Jr. Let me know where you get that hat from." Talking about this hat. That was on most of all my hats come from the Falcons website. I just I take a look between their website and New Era. This one came from probably about 3 years back, so this is like an older hat. But
Yeah,
yeah,
if you see Jr. starting to itch a little bit, starts scratching at his beard, that means he's in need of a fix, and you could probably expect a new hat by the next show.
hey man, I've gotten a few in the last couple. Like we went to a concert and I picked up a hat there. I got a new. Oh, can I reach it? I don't think I can. Where'd it go? I got a new Braves hat the other day when I was at the Braves game.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a slick looking hat. It's got, you know me, I like the different colors, and it's like it's the feather but with neon green on it. So,
Okay.
um, all right. So now let's kind of turn our attention to this coming week. Um, we because as King says here, he says, the only thing I'm concerned about is that we're still cursed at defending home, and has to change. We do better on the road than at home, and for the ticket prices to be so damn high. Now I got to hear you there. With them high ticket prices. Fred chimes in and says, we're gonna have to overcome the refs on Sunday. Mahomes is the golden boy.
Yep. How
Um,
many? So real quick,
yeah,
it kind of ties into the Mahomes Golden Boy thing, whatever. So did you watch any of the whether it was on Red Zone or whatever? Did you watch any of the Bears? Who are they playing this weekend?
the Bears played the Texans.
The Texans. Okay,
Yeah.
so in that game, there was a play in the second half, I believe, where Caleb Williams rolls out. He ends up like running the ball uh, because there's nothing there, and so he's running and he's heading out of bounds. He gets almost to out of bounds, but he's clearly inbounds, and he basically like pulls up while he's still in bounds and gets blasted. And I was seeing people all over my timeline that were like, "Man, that he was giving himself up. They should have had a flag and this and that and the other." I'm like, "What? He was in bounds."
No, I didn't
Like
see that, but no, if he's in bounds and
people were
didn't
like, "Mahomes
slide,
gets that
then
call."
well, I mean, Mahomes may. I don't know, but I will say this: like, I don't know how much I put into the. Right now, Mahomes is the new Brady in the sense that everybody wants to see them fail. Like he's on top. He's so
Yeah.
everything is going to look like he's getting all the calls. And I'm not saying that he is or isn't, but um, it's a tall task that we got coming up. Now,
Mhm.
I'll be the first to say I did not think we were going to be able to go into Philly and get a win. Um, like, and this was not solely based on, but I didn't think you were going to be able to have a drastic enough turnaround from week 1 to week 2 offensively,
Yeah.
which was my concern, right? Obviously, they proved me wrong by, varying up the, play calls from being under center, getting the play action in there. Part of me thinks that week 1 was like, hey, we know we're facing a very limited offense, and let's just go out there, keep it simple, and we should be able to win. And maybe they kind of overlooked Pittsburgh's defense a little bit
Which
and
is
thought
oof.
right because you saw more chipping and better blocking from the tight ends and all that jazz. You see what I'm saying? So uh, the the idea that I just think that they thought the Pittsburgh game was going to be easier. Part of me thinks that maybe they were already kind of looking ahead to week 2 in the Philly game. Um, I will say that coming into this game with going up against the Eagles, not the Eagles, the Chiefs, like this is Mahomes. Like
Yeah.
he can make, you know, lemonade out of lemons. He can make chicken salad out of chicken blank. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Mhm.
he is that guy. And I do get it. I saw this stat earlier about him having 17 picks called back from flags, most in the NFL, and I understand that. So
Yeah.
that's yet another aspect of it. So I wonder when I saw that stat, I'll put that back up there. I wondered how many of those were like a defense jumped off sides and he threw just a bomb anyway.
Yeah.
So I
That's
wonder, like how many of those came on free plays?
but it's also like it could be anything from that to uh they really schemed up something really good and their guys just beat the other guy. The defense so bad that like they were just like I gotta grab him, or
Mhm.
whatever. Like that kind of stuff happens, and it doesn't happen by mistake that the good teams seem to get a lot of calls, because what ends up happening is the good teams end up basically forcing the penalties, especially like when we're talking about holding, defensive holding or defensive pass interference, things like that, because their guys are just schemed so well open, or their guys just beat their one on ones, and it's like we got to do something,
Right.
panic or whatever, and so that kind of stuff. It doesn't surprise me that a lot of people will say that about the Chiefs and the refs. They said it about New England and the refs for many
That's
years.
what I'm saying. Like when you're on top like that, and you become the target, you become the fixation of everybody's ire. Um,
Yeah,
but I will say that they lost Isaiah Pacheco.
yeah.
Um, they brought back Kareem Hunt, so I don't know what
They
kind of
actually did. They actually did sign him.
yeah. I think I saw they did sign him today. So um, Justin Smith or Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates or and AJ Terrell, they're going to be in for a much taller task. Um, because yes, Jalen Hurts can hurt you with his legs as much as he can his arm, but Patrick Holmes is on a whole different level when it comes to passing. So
I'll
they
say that. I'll say that if we're just strictly talking about running quarterback, like a guy who will scramble and beat you with his legs, Jalen Hurts will beat you with his legs in the fact that he'll just run down. He'll run. Get the yardage himself.
right,
Mahomes is less apt to do that. He's more apt to escape a surefire sack situation somehow, and then just run around enough for somebody to figure out a way to get open, and then he can nail them.
right.
I don't think, and we'll see. We may come back here next Tuesday, and I'm like, well, I was wrong about that. But I don't think that the Chiefs' offensive line right now, and if you're going to play the Chiefs, honestly, generally early in the season, that's not a plan.
I'd rather have them now, like than later on.
Yeah. Once you start getting into like late November and December, they start getting those playoff juices flowing, and they're real tough.
Right,
Um, but I just don't think their offensive line is going to be quite as good, which ties into Raymond Collins' line.
right. He
Get that?
says if we can get some consistent pressure from the front four, look out. My only really concern, my only not more of a counterpoint, not like a criticism of your statement, is more of a counterpoint is that we don't rush the front four a lot. Like it's more of a 5-man rush, like um, like if you go back and look at the final play where we got the interception. I mean, you had one, two, three, four, five guys on the line of scrimmage. That's how they built. That's how they want this to work. Um,
Oh yeah,
so, but I understand what you're saying. If I would amend it to say if we can get some pressure, look out. Now, Alberto, he's saying like red zone is still also concerning. 3 times in the red zone came out with just field goals. You're not going to beat KC with just field goals.
No.
You've got to be able to, match point for point, so to speak. So I agree there. We need to get that cleaned up. The other part, to kind of go off of his point there, the part that's concerning is right now is third down efficiency. You were 2 for 9 last night.
Yeah.
Um, on generally speaking, that's not going to be good enough to get it done.
No.
So we got to pick up our third down efficiency. Um, I think but again, like we said, if you had marginal, like that big of an improvement from game 1 to game 2, you ended game 2 in such a way that you hadn't played yet, like in a fashion of your timing, your trusting your throws, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Now, if that can carry over into game 3, um, we shouldn't get embarrassed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm. Uh, I don't know. Like Fred says, like their defense doesn't scare me. If our defense plays well, we'll win. They've got a really good defensive line. Like Chris
Like,
Jones and George Karlaftis are not uh, are not pushovers by any stretch of
no,
the imagination.
no. Like Chris Jones by by himself is
Is
is probably the closest to a TJ Watt like presence on that. And the thing is you'll go the whole game and like he'll be, you know, you'll keep him in check. You'll be doing this, that, and the other. You're thinking you're having your way with him, and then invariably, I see in almost every game, whether it's a big game, mid-season game, playoff game, Super Bowl, doesn't matter. You get to the end of the game, Chris Jones shows up. That
mm-hmm.
dude makes plays when it's necessary for him to make plays, and he
Right.
can wreck shop on. I've seen him do it against all kinds of teams with all kinds of offensive lines, whether they're really good, really bad, didn't matter. He's done it to everyone.
Yep.
And so he's that same kind of dude, that same kind of factor that a TJ Watt, uh, is, and he's that kind of smart player too. Like he's not a guy you try to throw him 2 or 3 of the same exact play multiple times, he's going to see it and he's going to know it and he's going to diagnose it and he's going to make you pay for
Right.
it.
I will say this: like looking at this is the first time I've looked at the box score, and of course, the box score doesn't always tell the story. Um, but like Mahomes only threw for 151 yards and threw 2 interceptions against the Bengals. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Like I said, if you're gonna take on the Chiefs right now, it's time to do it. They tend to, like Nick says, the Chiefs always start slow. They are 2-0, but still, like it hasn't been like a overwhelming 2-0. They almost lost to the Bengals,
Yeah.
which the Bengals are a good team. They're not a bad team. So
If we're, like I said, like me and you both said, if we got to play them in the season, now is the time to do it. Don't want
mhm.
them in mid-November or December. You don't want to play them then, whether you're at your place or you're at their place. It don't matter.
And plus
Uh,
they've got two of the best, like two of the best coaches in the league, in Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo.
yeah,
So I don't expect him. They ain't gonna stay down for long, right? And you talk about them staying down, and they've won both their games, right? So Fred says, I told y'all we were beating the Eagles and the Chiefs halfway there. I just need my boss to bet against the Falcons again, like actual money. 'Cause, like he had this long parlay that he was explaining to me, and it was capped off with basically the Falcons losing. If the Falcons lost, he would have hit his parlay, and he didn't. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I just need you to bet on them every game.
yeah,
So All right. I I think that's about does it, huh? Is there
Well, yeah, I mean, but like,
I kind of ran out like my brain locked up a little bit and I remember like, is that it? Like
uh,
anybody else have any comments or questions or
I,
um
I just, I, I just want to say, well, so, and I was talking about this before the show, and I didn't, I told you I'd go through it here, but like, so you're watching that game yesterday. You turned it off,
right.
right after the tush push touchdown,
Correct. The tush
that,
push
that,
touchdown.
and then
Uh
the eventual 2 point conversion that
yep.
got him to 18-15.
Right. I was like, look, it's getting like I gotta get up early in the morning.
Yep.
So I cut it off, tried to drift off to sleep, and uh was unsuccessful. but but anyway, go ahead. Well, yeah.
Well, so while you were sleeping, I'm sitting here just being all Debbie Downer because I'm like, oh, wouldn't
Here
you
we
do
go
this?
again, right?
Yeah, just I was just not feeling it or whatever. I kept watching them, and I watched the whole game. And so we get to it gets 18-15. They kick it off to us. We don't do much of anything, and then we get to that 4th and 1, and when that 4th and 1 happens and we go for it, and again, I'll say this: I don't mind that play. Like, I'm not going to say, because like, we look at Philadelphia now and they say, like, why are you throwing it to Saquon? Why didn't you just run it? You've been running it down their throats. We've been running it down their throats all game long. If we throw a pass there and it comes up incomplete, all we were going to hear anybody bitch about today was, why didn't you run Bijan? Why didn't you run Algier? Algier might have been a little nicked up or whatever, but why didn't you run Robinson? I mean, the guy's been just running roughshod on him all game.
Right.
Set, like we talked about, 7 yards, and might have been even more than that prior to that play, because he was but he ended the game with a 7 yard per run average. So why not run with him? So you run with Algier, he gets stuff. Just the guy, Gardner Johnson. I can't stand the guy, but he made a hell of a play.
Yeah.
Stuck his nose in there and made the play. Okay, and so when that happened, I'm like, well, you know. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like waiting for things to happen. And then so when that happens, they're just running it down our throats. They're, getting it down in there. And it's 3rd and 3 in my brain. Okay. I'm thinking, you run this with Saquon, even if you get nothing. Okay. You could run it down, you leave a minute left, and if you decide to kick a field goal there, okay, cool. However, if you get even a yard and bring it to 4th and 2, I would almost be okay with doing the tush push at 4th and 2, because even if you do it at 4th and 2, you're still going to waste another few seconds, and then before they blow the whistle and call everything dead to see where everything's at. So we're probably looking at, and say you don't get it, we're talking less than a minute left to go, even like the actual length of the field.
right.
Okay. But so I'm sitting here, and then they run that play action. And now I'll say this: that was a good call. It was a good call. It was executed perfectly in every way except for Saquon didn't catch
Right.
it. Okay, Saquon ran the route right. The play action fake was whether you consider it a good one or not, it was successful because our guys got sucked in. He was wide open. The pass was right there. It just bloop, just went off his hands. All right. When that happened, I'm literally like, when I saw that play developing, I'm sitting there just like,
Oh God, here we go.
I was like, that's it. That's game. As the
Mhm.
ball's in the air, the thought goes through my mind, that's it. That's game. And when it bounces off his hands, I'm like, huh? What? Holy. And then I'm thinking, like, okay, well, now they're going to go for it again, and then they're going to get it. Because that's the Falcons thing to do. Like, we get hope. Oh, man, it's 4th down. No, they're going to go for it, and they're going to get it somehow or another.
Mhm.
And but no, they went for the field goal. So I'm like, okay, so now we can't tie it. We have to go down and get 6. But I was like, okay, but we got a minute 39, I think is what it
Right.
ended up being.
Something
So
like
we
that.
had a minute 39, and that first play gets to the pits, 10 yards. Like I said, I was like, man, that was a bullet. that was a good pass, and I really like how Pitts did it. He catches it and fights for that first down. Got the first down. They get up. They're not like celebrating. They're not doing the first down. They're getting up and trying to like get things going as quickly as possible. He hits Mooney for 21 yards. I'm like, oh, oh man, starting to get
Is it
nervous.
happening?
Yeah, is it happening? He hits him again for that 26 yarder. And like when he first broke away, I'm like, oh my god, that's you know, he runs out of bounds. I'm like, okay, like 45 seconds left. And now if you've watched the Manning cast,
Mm-hmm.
you get to the end and Manning is kind of doing I had the same stuff going. I didn't watch the Manning cast live. I watched it later on.
Right.
But the same thoughts were going through my mind. Exactly the same thoughts. And that was, don't score too quickly. Let's see if we, hell, I would have been fine if the very next play after the big play to Mooney was a run to Bijan. At
Right.
45, 46 seconds, you run that ball. Let's say you get 5-6 yards out of it, because there's no way in hell they're thinking you're going to run that ball with 40 something seconds left. But if you run that ball and get you a good whatever, you could probably still get up and spike it with probably 20 to 25 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still plenty of time for you to take some shots at the end zone. And you still could potentially throw something in the middle of the field and get up and spike it again. Like there's all kinds of options available to you, right? So I'm thinking, just don't do this. He throws it to Drake, get a little bit closer, 5 yards. Throws into to Ray, and I'm like, that's a flag.
Yeah,
Oh my god, how does somebody was like, did he just flop or something? I'm like, no, did you like what they couldn't see in the camera was like the guy had his arm wrapped around him, because as he's going to the ground, he's getting spun because the guy is pulling on his jersey on the front. And but they didn't call it. I'm like, is it gonna be this kind of game? This kind of ending? Are the refs going to screw us again? And so then the very next play, Drake London happens. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything. I was just like, and so then I saw how much time was left.
I think Drake had the same reaction that all of us did. Like he was just as shocked as everybody else that that he caught that, not that he caught it, but it was like the sequence of events. It seemed. Now the whole, I thought that was absolutely dumb. Not him celebrating. I told a coworker today, the whole like chopper motion or whatever, like that ain't nothing new. Like why are you deciding to flag it right then? Like I don't know how many times over the like watching Red Zone, you seeing a player, you know, uh, get a touchdown and then run up to the camera doing this. That ain't the damn mashed potato. They got their fingers like this. They're, so like, how's that any different? And he wasn't like he was jawing at the crowd or anything like that. It wasn't like he was pointing it at the, Philly bench, or he was on his side of the field with his guys, you know. I don't, I don't really get, uh, why they got the flag, but you throw the flag, and we saw the misses that Koo had in preseason, the one game, but like he had ice in his veins up in Philly and went up there and absolutely drilled it. So, Josh says, I'm not trying to hate at all, but all these post game celebrations was a bad look, and it's like they didn't even expect to win. In a sense, maybe like you could say that. I could see where you get that. Like I really, and I can't say that you're wrong, but again, based off the performance that we had against the Steelers, this is a stark turnaround.
Yeah.
So
I look at. No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, and they, they needed this stuff to start building confidence with each other. Like
Yeah.
it's one thing to spend all training camp together, but to go out and there and actually start to do it. And the
Mhm.
fact that on that drive where you had to have it, like I said
Yeah.
earlier, you had to have that drive. You had to have a touchdown. You hit Pitts, you hit Mooney, and you hit London. Like uh that was a statement type deal
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, and you got to look at it from a couple things. One, this was just a super emotional win. Like you were in most other scenarios, you're probably losing that game. Okay, that it, like where Philadelphia was at, how the game had been going, what you thought was going to be the next play or two. Okay,
Mhm.
um, the thought was game's over. Okay, now you were gifted an opportunity, with the drop, and then you took advantage. Not only were you just given the opportunity, the opportunity arose for you to be able to possibly do this. You then went out
Right.
and did it.
Right. Like Nick says,
Exactly.
not our fault. Like look, at the end of the day, you still had to capitalize.
Right.
Like when Barkley doesn't catch it, they kick the field goal. They go up a full touchdown, or they go up 6 points, where you are forced to have to score a touchdown. Like they're betting that they could stop you. Heck, they've stopped you. You'd only scored one touchdown up to that point,
Yeah.
so they had been able to keep you out of the end zone. So they were betting on their defense. So
Yep.
I think that um no, yeah, they didn't make the right choices, but we still had to go out and execute, and still had to go and capitalize on it, which we did.
Right. And
We
and then this was well. So I was going to do the other
oh, go
the
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
this one right here. This is the other part of it. This was Raheem's first win as Falcons head coach. Like
Yeah, as
that,
full head coach, not interim, because I think he won a game or two as interim coach.
yeah.
But like, yes, this is like his first time really back in the saddle where he's calling all the shots, and they won the game. It's a big deal. And
They
for
won the game, and it wasn't just like, oh, we won and we were up by 2 touchdowns. No, we won, and it was a dramatic,
yeah, nail
amazing
biting.
come from behind win where the chips were on the table. You had to make plays, you made plays, and you handled your business.
That's right. That's right. Um, I don't know if I would consider it a shot at Arthur. I think that was just our good buddy Joe Patrick, just making a comparison from Arthur doing that.
But it
Like,
but it is funny to think that it was.
well, I mean, fine. Sometimes I think we have a tendency to read things
Oh yeah.
uh, you know, into situations when they're not there. Um. Anyway, so
Oh well, Willie
what?
said. What else did Matt Ryan say?
Oh
So
yeah, okay, yeah. He. I think it was a comment that he made, like when you were talking about the time of possession or whatever. Like he made the comment that you want to leave enough time for a Hail Mary, and you could really tell that in his mind, in that scenario, he's like, basically Matt Ryan knows he ain't never had a defense, so
yeah,
like, hey, we got to score as quick as we can, because we're gonna need one more shot to to do it again, and
yep,
so that was kind of funny, because both the Mannings were like, kind of didn't really bite on what he was saying. Uh,
yeah, yeah. He was like he said that, and they were both kind of like, "Hmm,"
right.
But they also talked about like that final drive was about as perfectly it went about as perfectly as you could want a game-winning touchdown drive to go, because they talked, and Manning talked about it, Ryan talked about it, Eli talked about it. It was like there's like a trifecta that so
Mhm.
you want to get a good first play, no negative yardage. There was something else, but there was like three things, and they were all kind of like nodding their heads. and they were like, and Peyton Manning specifically was like, you want to get a good gain on that first play, and as soon as and then he's talked about that you at some point you want to get a chunk play, and so it was
Right.
literally like 10 yards to Pitts first play, awesome, get up, next play, chunk play to Mooney, there you go. Like literally the way he was describing how the best way this could go for you, it went for us,
Right.
and it was like watching it live was like anxiety inducing, but amazing, amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely, and we tend to be on the receiving end of those versus being able to, apply that. So,
Yep.
well, hopefully on Tuesday we'll be talking. Oh, well, we got a debate. Like, I'll be out of town this coming Tuesday. I will be on vacation, so we
How
have to
dare
figure
you?
out. I
It's
know, I
football
know.
season, man. What are you doing?
I'm going on vacation. Like,
No.
yeah, like, hey,
There are no vacations during football season. You know
no,
how this
in the modern era, no matter where I am, I can watch football. Good sir. So, um,
but you can't be on this show if you're on vacation.
Nick's up here. Why, Jr.?
Well, one other thing I actually want to point this out. It didn't really work the way that we were maybe hoping it was going to work, but I like the thought. we get to the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, and it's third and one,
Uh-huh.
or third and half a yard or something like that, because everybody thought Saquon got the first down. He didn't actually get the first down. And so third and one's coming up, and I like the fact that we tried to get up there and be like, boop, see if they would take the the encroachment, so that we could save to have all three of our timeouts be for the next set of downs.
Oh yeah.
They declined it, obviously, but I like, because I'm not sure if you would have seen that from either an Arthur Smith led team or a
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn led team, maybe not even Mike Smith led team, but I'm not sure if that's something you would have seen from any of those coaches. Like, even the thought, like, let's go ahead and do this.
Right.
Let's see if we can get them to take it. And it didn't cost you anything.
No. Like, they were probably going to convert anyway. It would have saved you a timeout. So
exactly.
But all right, well, we'll figure out what we're doing next week. Maybe I can come in live from remote destinations unknown for at least a few minutes. So we'll see how all that goes. But anyway,
probably depends on how this game goes Sunday evening.
Yeah, if it looks like trash, no, you won't see me at all. We'll just we get blown out and it looks horrible. No. But anyway, as always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128. That's GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
There you go. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.